Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Sony Pro Audio Files. My name is Andy Munitz, Product Manager for Sony's Professional Audio Division. And in this video, we'll go into the specific operation and features of our latest UWP-D wireless microphone series. So, if you already have one of our UWP-D packages, or are just looking to learn more about them, this video should give you lots of information on how to operate them and perhaps introduce you to some of the features that this product family is known for. So let's have a look. First up, a quick review of some of the basic features of this third generation UWP-D series. UWP-D Wireless is available in pre-packaged configurations as either a UWP-D11 ENG style package, which includes a body pack transmitter with a lavalier mic, a portable diversity tuner, and all of the cables, belt clips, and a cold shoe bracket needed to mount it to many cameras. Or as the UWP-D12 package, which has a handheld mic transmitter instead of the body pack, or the UWP-D16, which is like the UWP-D11 package, but also includes a plug-on transmitter for use with an interview-style mic, such as our F112 dynamic mic. All components are made with metal construction for reliability and field use, and have a great fit and finish and feel very solid. As the most important function of any wireless mic is reliability of signal, the UWP-D receivers employ a dual tuner true diversity design. Two discrete tuners, each with their own antenna, and a circuit that automatically switches to the stronger of the two tuners' signals, greatly protecting against the possibility of dropouts. The UWP-D series is capable of tuning in up to 2,772 channels and allows for very easy infrared syncing of your receiver and transmitter for finding and setting the best and quietest channel available for use every time you use it, something we'll go into further detail about in just a bit. The series employs digital signal processing, or DSP, of the audio, to ensure great sound and preservation of the transient response of your audio signal. As well, the units employ useful features such as micro USB connectors for permanent powering or in-unit charging of nickel metal hydride batteries when using a cell phone charger, and also have an accurate count-up battery timer, something that can really save on battery costs over the long run. Both body pack and plug-on transmitters allow for either mic or line level input selection, and the plug-on transmitter even offers phantom power should you want to use it with a condenser mic. The UWP-D receiver also has a separate headphone out, great for DSLRs that don't happen to have a headphone jack, and also utilizes a very large and bright backlit display with extensive menu selections for taking advantage of its many capabilities. And finally, with the introduction of many new camera models from both Sony's consumer Alpha DSLR lineup, as well as several new PXW series of camcorders from our professional division, you're now able to take advantage of our new multi-interface, or MI-Shoe, intelligent shoe design. This allows for a very quick and simple method of attaching the UWP-D receiver to these MI-Shoe enabled cameras, allowing for audio from the receiver to route directly down through the SMAD-P3 or MI-Shoe adapter into the camera, without the need for an external XLR cable, and even allows for power to come up through the shoe from the camera's battery to power the UWP-D receiver without the need for internal batteries, lightening things up a bit and making your camera rig a bit less front-heavy. Very useful capability, especially for run-and-gun applications. Okay, so with that brief overview and introduction, let's dive into the menus of these units. By the way, whichever transmitter style you have, body pack, handheld, or plug-on, the menu operation is the same. But in this video, we'll demonstrate on the body pack transmitter. Before getting specific with the menus, notice that all units have a power button, which you'll need to hold down for about a second to turn the unit on or off. Also a set button on the left of the display, and a plus and minus or up-down buttons on the right. Holding down the set button briefly chooses that menu for modification. As well, a brief look at the receiver's display shows the following info. Starting at the top left is an audio level display, a bar graph battery meter, and A and B tuner signal strength meters. By the way, it's good that it constantly switches between the A and B selection, showing that the diversity reception circuit is always giving you the strongest of the two signals. The next row shows your channel or frequency information. We'll go into more detail on the topics of channels and groups in a separate video that I hope you'll have a chance to look at. But for now, notice that we're currently set to group 00 and are operating within the UHF-TV 30 channel and specifically on wireless mic channel 01 within that much larger UHF-TV channel. For the purposes of this video, you'll want to be in group 00, most useful for when you're a single wireless channel one-man band operation. And finally, on the display is the actual frequency of the channel you'll be receiving or tuned into. Holding down the Set button while on this screen will allow you to choose the group that the unit will operate in, and can also allow you to manually set the channel that the unit will receive. This is useful, for example, when you want to have multiple receivers listening in to the same transmitter. Okay, that said, first up, let's investigate the most common setting that you'll need to access: how to scan for the best available channel, and how to sync up your transmitter to match. As finding the quietest frequency available at each location you shoot at is critical for ensuring your best wireless mic experience, it must be easy to do, and remember, start by holding the receiver in your left hand and the transmitter in your right, so that the unit's infrared sensors face each other. This way, they can share information. To start a scan using the method I like best, go 2 menu selections down in the receiver to the Auto Set menu. Once there, activate it by holding down the Set button until it flashes Yes. Then, hit the Set button again to select this choice. The unit will then start scanning 188 channels, and during the scan, you can see the background noise of each frequency as it passes them. And in about 12 seconds, once it's found the quietest one, it will send a sync signal over to the transmitter and light up its display, saying sync and flashing no. Hit either the plus or minus button on the transmitter to change the display choice to yes, and then hit the Set button to select it. That's it. The units are now both set to operate on the same and quietest available frequency in that frequency block. If you look back at the receiver's home display, notice that the channel strength for both the A and B tuners read full and strong. By the way, the first couple of times you try this, the menu system might time out on you. But once familiar with this procedure, it'll become obvious and work fine. Now, there are actually a couple of other methods for scanning for channels. Another good one is to simply power up the unit while holding down the Set button. This will initiate a scan immediately upon power up. Once it's found the quietest channel, notice that it gives a readout of the background noise on that frequency. You can choose this channel and go through the infrared syncing process as prompted by the menus, or you can even, once shown the selected best frequency, hit the plus button and go through the other available channels it found in order of their background noise, eventually having the meter jump in 5 dB increments as it continues to show available channels. You can, of course, select one of these channels as well, but it's often wise to let the unit select the best channel for you. Finally, there is the Clear Scan menu that, once selected with the Set button, will flash a plus sign at you, suggesting that by hitting the plus button, you can likewise scroll through available found channels in order of their quality of choice for selection and pairing with the transmitter. If you play around with each of these methods, you'll likely come up with the one that makes the most sense to you and is easiest to use. Again, always scanning for and choosing the best available frequency to use will help ensure the best wireless mic experience. Some of the other menus you'll want to know about include the following. Phones, or headphone level. Pretty obvious, but depending on your headphones of choice, this control can be useful. Band. Now, this requires a bit of explanation. As I mentioned earlier, the UWP-D Series is capable of operating over a very wide bandwidth of available frequencies, up to 72 MHz or 12 UHF TV channels to be exact. As these units operate within unused UHF TV channels, ranging from UHF TV 14 up through UHF TV 51, you will have likely chosen one of our packages in either the 14, 30, or 42 range, splitting this large frequency spectrum roughly into thirds. Now, if you own a UWP-D 11/30 system, it means that your system covers UHF TV channels 30 through 41. The band menu that we're now looking at actually splits this range into further thirds, that of 30 to 33, 34 to 36, and 38 to 41. This helps keep full scan times manageable, amongst other things. By the way, you might notice that 37 is intentionally missing, as in some countries this is reserved for radio astronomy. Changing this band menu selection will determine which specific channel range your receiver will scan and operate in. This can be helpful, especially in very crowded city environments, in helping to set up a multi-channel wireless microphone system, but we'll get into that in the separate video I mentioned earlier. A bit further down in the menu is out level, or output level, of the main output jack on the receiver. This is adjustable to plus or minus 12 dB, which can be very useful, especially when feeding a DSLR that might not have much of an audio control or menu selection. Next, the sync menu. Activating this manually starts the infrared syncing function with the transmitter, as we demonstrated earlier. Up next, we see the time menu. I'm particularly fond of this one, as it can really save you some money in the long run. After selecting this by holding down the set button, you can then hit the minus button to reset the count-up timer to 0. Then hit the set button again to store this setting. In other words, every time you put in a fresh set of batteries, be sure to reset this menu to 0. If you used your wireless system for only 2 hours and 43 minutes on today's session, but tomorrow's or next week's or next month's session is only likely to go for about 2 to 3 hours, you don't have to change the batteries. Of course, you'd never really trust your 3-segment battery graph, and you'd instantly change batteries. But now you have an accurate timer that you can trust. After only a couple of sets of batteries, you'll learn that you can get about 8 hours of life out of 2 AA's. This savings in batteries can really mount up in the course of a year. The next menu allows you to open up the advanced menu, giving access to additional functions that you might want to use occasionally. These include Compander mode. Cycling through the options here will allow for compatibility with Sony's legacy wireless units, including past generation UWP series as well as our WL800 models. For example, for using either a UWP-D receiver with older style transmitters or a UWP-D series transmitter to be able to work with older Sony receivers. For our purposes here though, make sure it stays set to UWP-D. Next up, Power Select. This setting will determine the power source for the receiver unit if it's mounted on one of our MI or multi-interface enabled cameras with our MI shoe adapter. That chooses either the receiver's onboard batteries or to use power externally from the camera's battery. It also allows for choosing to power the unit from a micro USB connected power supply, such as a cell phone charger. Active Scan is a scanning function that will look for any active UWP-D transmitters already in use in a particular group, allowing you to quickly choose to listen in to any of the transmitters in a multi-channel mic setup. Once in this menu, hit the plus button to scan for any transmitters and hit Set to select that one. You can also hit the plus button again to search for the next available transmitter, or hit the minus button to cancel out of this function. The power lock setting, if set to lock, will prevent turning the unit off unintentionally without an additional menu confirmation. Next is a battery choice option, which will allow the unit's battery meter to work correctly depending on the type of battery you choose to use. Type 1 is for alkaline batteries, Type 2 is for nickel metal hydride rechargeable batteries, and Type 3 is for lithium batteries. The contrast menu simply adjusts the display contrast that suits you best. And next, a reset button that will restore the factory default parameters of the receiver. Finally, the last menu will display the current software revision. And again, the last few menu choices are available only when the advanced menu mode is selected. Now that we've covered the receiver's menu choices, let's have a look at the transmitter's display, menu, and operational features. Starting at the top left, we see an antenna symbol, which confirms active transmission. This is followed by either an L, which represents a 5 milliwatt power setting, or an H for the 30 milliwatt setting. Next is the audio level meter, followed by an indication of whether the unit is set for either mic or line level input. Following that is the bar graph battery indicator. On the next line, we see the group selection that the unit is set to operate in, again a topic that we'll discuss in a separate video on channels and groups, followed by the specific UHF TV channel and mic channel that the unit is currently set to. And finally, on the bottom line, the actual frequency number of the selected channel. As well, notice the power button, which also can be used as a muting button if hit momentarily. Notice that an orange LED will flash if the unit is set to muting mode. Just hit the power muting button again to release the muting function. Now, before getting into the menus, know that there are 4 specific transmitter configuration menus that can only be accessed when the unit is in a special setting mode. In order to access these functions, you must power up the unit while holding down the Set button. Menus such as manual group and channel setting mode, frequency block selection, low or high power output setting, and factory reset then become available to change. This special activation mode is so that these critical selections won't be made by mistake during active transmission mode. After making any of these settings, the unit must be either turned off and then on again, or resynced with the receiver to start transmitting again. So let's go through the transmitter's menus and have a look. First up, audio input attenuation. Adjust this menu to best match a specific microphone to the mic preamp of the unit. I suggest listening carefully while adjusting this to get the best sound quality. Next is the LCF, or low cut filter frequency choice. Depending perhaps on wind or background noise conditions, this can be set to off, low 100 Hz, mid 150 Hz, or high 200 Hz filter setting. If setting this filter, don't forget to reset it for subsequent shoots, perhaps under different conditions. Following this menu is the mic or line input selection menu. This can be handy for when getting a feed from a mixing console or other audio device. Pretty handy when you actually need it. Up next, the battery count-up timer, as we discussed in the receiver menu. And finally, under the advanced menus section, similar menus as in the receiver, but with these additional transmitter-only choices. Muting enable. Changing this selection to disable will prevent the momentary power switch function from putting the unit into a muting mode. Next is phase. This allows for changing the phase of a connected microphone other than the supplied lavalier. And one last menu choice that shows up on the UTX-P03 plug-on transmitter only, the option to supply 48-volt phantom power if you use a condenser-style mic that requires phantom power. Well, that's a pretty detailed view into the operation of our UWP-D series of wireless microphones. Realize, though, that even with all of these custom choices, you'll most likely just scan for a clear frequency each time you use the system, sync up the transmitter to match, and you're all good to go. Hopefully this video has given you insights into the operation of these units and will help make you the master of your wireless mics. As I'm sure you realize, wireless mics can offer real flexibility when choosing to use them, but without a solid understanding of both their operation and frequency selection, they might offer a bit less than the best results. And finally, please look for our video on Sony wireless microphone group and channel settings to complete your understanding of your UWP-D wireless mic. For further information on these and other Sony professional audio products and various resource downloads, please visit us at sony.com/proaudio. And thanks for watching.